I'm in Mr. Beast's new show, Beast Games, and today I'm going to break down everything that happened to me in episode 1. From the highs, the lows, what I was thinking, everything. And again, this video is only covering what happened to me in episode 1. So if you want to hear my story of what happened to me in episode 0, make sure to head to the description because I linked it there. And also, make sure to subscribe because I'll soon be posting my story of what happened to me in episode 2. And trust me, you will not want to miss that. But anyways, sit back, relax, grab some popcorn as I tell you my whole story of how I advanced in the biggest reality show of all time. Alright, so as you guys know, all 1,000 of us were gathered in this huge room, all on our own platform, arranged in this giant grid-like pattern. And each platform was marked with our jersey number. And since my number for the show is number 245, I was obviously on platform 245. So I then just stood there on my platform in the 3rd row and just took everything in before the game started. I mean, I'm here. I'm in a Mr. Beast video, baby. And alongside that, the largest reality show of all time. It's time to lock in and go win this thing. So then, before I even knew it, the first challenge had started, and Jimmy put $1 million on the board and said whoever hit the button on their iPad and took the money would split the money with however many other people decide to take the bribe, and they will be eliminated with the money. So after hearing that, I didn't even look at the button on my iPad. I mean, yeah, free money is cool, and they're probably gonna get a decent amount. But at the end of the day, I came here for the long run, and there's just no way I'm gonna go out this early. So again, this was an easy decision for me as I didn't even consider pressing the button. But then, before I knew it, about 53 people ended up taking the offer as they split $19,000 each. And again, that would have been a lot of money for a 20-year-old college student like me. But again, at the end of the day, I came here to win. So honestly, it really wasn't a hard decision for me, and I really wouldn't consider calling it a challenge. But anyways, I'm curious, would you guys have taken that money? Let me know down below in the comments and tell me, would you have taken that bribe? Alright guys, now it's time for game 2, and let me tell you, I consider myself a pretty good competitor and athlete, and at the end of the day, not too many things rattle me and get me on edge. I mean, I got to this point for a reason, and any individual challenge where it's on me, whether I move on or not, I'm totally cool with. But team games, where I gotta rely on another person to help me move on, is where I get extremely nervous. I mean, at the end of the day, I could do everything right, but all it takes is just one person on your team to mess up and not do right, and that could be the reason you go home. So whenever Jimmy announced that this next game will be a self-sacrifice challenge, where the last 3 rows to have someone self-sacrifice himself will be eliminated, I immediately started stressing out. I mean, my game was literally in somebody else's hands, and I for sure was not gonna self-sacrifice myself, so I just had to hope and pray that somebody on my row would just take one for the team. So I then immediately started looking down my whole row, trying to find somebody that looked like they might wanna do it. And let me tell you, everybody I saw looked stone cold. Nobody looked like they were wanting to do it. So I then turned to my buddy Raphael, number 246, and I kinda just gave him that look like, hey, this might be it for us. But deep down, I still had a little bit of hope as I said a quick prayer, and before I knew it, the game had started. And let me tell you, almost immediately, rows started turning green. It was literally like a chain reaction. Once one row started turning green, even more rows started turning green. And all I could see to my left were rows turning green and people cheering. And my heart literally sunk in this moment. I mean, no way I was about to go out like this. So I then started to panic as I literally yelled as loud as I could for someone on my row to press the stupid button. But then, by the grace of God, number 199 took one for the team and pressed the button as our whole row turned green as we were one of the last rows to be safe. And the adrenaline high I got in this moment was off the charts as we were officially moving on. I mean, I don't think I've been through that big of an emotional roller coaster in my life before that challenge. It was just that intense. But that feeling of knowing you were moving on was unmatched, as it felt like I was on top of the world. So then, while we were celebrating, the first 2 rows to my right and the 4th row to my left all turned red as they were eventually dropped and eliminated, basically leaving my row, the 3rd row, on an island all by herself, surrounded by eliminated rows. And while they were being dropped and eliminated, I was still celebrating from the last challenge, but I immediately locked back in and told myself the job was nowhere close to be finished and it was still very early in the games. And I still had a long road ahead of me if I wanted to win this thing. So then, shortly after everybody was dropped, game 3 finally started, and in this challenge, we had to stack 15 shapes on top of this vertical rectangle, and the first 100 people's towers to fall will be eliminated. And while this was an individual challenge, which I liked, I'd be lying to you guys if I said I wasn't nervous, because I knew this challenge would require a lot of concentration. And one wrong move and you were going home. So I knew I had to be the most locked in I've ever been up to this point if I wanted to pass this challenge. So then the challenge starts, and my hands are literally shaking as I grab all 15 of my shapes out of the box and start stacking them on my rectangle. And I don't know if you guys could tell, but the base of the rectangle we were stacking on was super small. So stacking all those shapes on it was no easy task and was way harder than it might have looked. But anyways, I'm sitting there and I'm building my tower up, and all I hear around me are people screaming as their towers fall. And this just added even more pressure on me as I was building my tower. I mean, the closest example I can think of to describe this situation is the cookie game in Squid Games, where you're working on your cookie and all you can hear around you are people messing up and getting picked off. I mean, it was literally that intense. But anyways, I was still super nervous and my hands were still shaking as I was continuing to build up my tower. And my whole strategy for building my tower was to use the biggest shapes as the base and then stack the smaller shapes on top. And this strategy seemed to be working as I was stacking them on with no problem at all. But then, as I was stacking the last few blocks, I noticed my tower was about to fall. And if I moved my hand from where it was, I was a goner. So I then had to carefully pick up my blocks from the bottom and recenter them on top of my rectangle. And let me tell you, in this moment, I've never been so locked in and focused in my entire life. Every move I made was with extreme precision. So then, after finally adjusting my tower, I put the final 2 blocks on and stood up. I had done it. My tower was standing, and now all I had to do was wait for 100 people's towers to fall and be eliminated. So I then carefully walked over to the edge of my platform, making sure not to shake my platform as I did not want to accidentally knock it over. But finally, after making my way, I got to the edge of my platform as I waited for more people's towers to fall. And also, keep in mind, I have no idea whether 100 people's towers have fallen or not. So I'm just trying to play the logical game and keep my tower up for as long as possible to give myself the best possible odds of making it through. But anyways, at this point, I was feeling pretty good about my tower. But then, literally, the worst thing happened as I looked to my left and see my buddy Raphael's tower fall. And in this moment, my heart literally dropped. I mean, my day one best friend was more than likely now eliminated, and it just crushed me knowing that my day one best friend again was more than likely going home. But also at the end of the day, I knew it happened, and now the most important thing is to make sure my tower is standing as I walk back to the edge of my platform, stone cold. And then, after what seemed like forever, the timer finally went off. And by this point, I was pretty much 100% confident that I was good and that 100 people's towers have fallen. So then they finally announced to us that they know who the first 100 people's towers to fall were, and that if your platform turns red, you're eliminated, but if it stays normal, you're good. So they then do a countdown, and the room erupts in the cheers as people find out they're safe. And like I already thought, my platform turns out to be safe as I'm now officially moving on to the next game. And while I was happy that I was moving on, I was still super bummed knowing that Raphael was more than likely going home. But then the unthinkable happens as Raphael's platform turns from red to normal, as me and Kate rush to his platform and start going crazy. I mean, there was just no way I would have thought he had any chance of still being in. So in this moment, whenever I found out he was, it was literally one of the biggest plot twists I never could have seen coming. And it turned out the sole reason he was still in is because 100 people got eliminated in like the first 30 seconds. Yeah, they got eliminated that early. So even though I thought Raphael dropped early, it was nowhere near as early as the first 100 people to drop. So literally, all you had to do was just have your tower standing for like a minute and you would have passed, which is crazy. So again, let me know down in the comments below, would you have passed this challenge? Because if I'm being 100% honest, it was low-key way harder than it looked. I mean, I never would have thought playing with blocks of all things could be this stressful. But now, I'm officially moving on to the final game of the episode, feeling as confident as ever. But as always, that confidence would soon be short-lived as Jimmy announced that this game will be yet again another team game where now the people to your left and to your right were now your teammates. And as you guys know, in this game, Jimmy put a money value on screen, and if one of your teammates hit the button and took the money, they will go home with the money. But in the process, they would also eliminate their entire team, and they will go home with nothing. So once again, my fate was literally in other people's hands. So then after hearing this, I immediately started talking to everybody on my team, asking if they were good. And they responded by giving me the thumbs up and smiling. But at the end of the day, I was still extremely nervous. I mean, I knew Jimmy was gonna throw up a huge amount of money on screen. And yeah, they're telling me now they're not gonna be bribed, but who knows how they're gonna react whenever a huge amount of money is literally an iPad click away from being theirs. So again, I was stressing. So then the game starts and Jimmy starts laying out the offers. And the first offer was $20,000, then $50,000, then $80,000, and then the final offer was $100,000. And every time you would see somebody take the bribe in a row, all you would see is a whole row go red, which was crazy. But luckily for me, I had an amazing row as everybody kept their word and nobody budged. And yeah, I say I wasn't thinking about taking it, but I mean, at the end of the day, $20,000 is a ton of money for somebody like me, not to mention $50,000, $80,000, or $100,000. And it would have been amazing to go home with any of this amount of money. But again, like I also said earlier, I came here to win, and at the end of the day, it's just not in me to screw over anybody for any amount of money, no matter how big it is. It's just not in my character. But anyways, I'm curious, what would you guys have done? Would you have taken the money and eliminated your entire team? Am I stupid for not taking the money? Let me know down below in the comments. But anyways, again, I didn't take the money, and luckily nobody on my team took it either, as 100 people were eventually eliminated, and now I was officially moving on to the next phase. So this officially wraps up episode 1 of Beast Games, but make sure to subscribe because I'll soon be posting my story on episode 2. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching Beast Games so far, because I'm telling you, this show is gonna blow your mind and you're not gonna wanna miss it. So again, thanks for following my journey, and I'll see you next time.